I challenged myself to beat Pokémon SoulSilver using Silver's team from the Pokémon Adventures manga. Okay, let's get one thing out of the way. Silver's team is pretty stacked. Yeah, he's got 3 water types, but come on. Compared to Gold's team, it's not even a competition. Even though his team's pretty goated, there's one tricky thing. Okay, here's a map of Johto. We get Feraligatr as a starter, but we won't get another encounter until after we beat Morty. Gyarados is in the Lake of Rage, Honchkro's in the Safari Zone, Kingdra's in Whirl Islands, Ursaring is right before Clair, and Weavile's in the post-game. So I had to make a few creative changes, but I'm sure you guys will like it. As usual, standard Nuzlocke rules apply. Let's jump back into Johto and start our adventure as Silver. That's right, I modified the game to walk around the overworld as Silver. It took a bit to figure out DS modding, but huge shout out to Jason for the guidance. I also created a back sprite for Silver, but it didn't always work. You guys will see in a minute. And not only is our overworld sprite updated, but our rival is now Gold. I'll be honest, something's got a little messed up in the Switch. You guys will see that in a minute too. After your guys' feedback from my video playing as Blue, I used a universal Pokemon randomizer to change Gold's starter to Cyndaquil. Look at the starter selections. The options are Totodile and 2 Cyndaquils, so there's no way he could have a Chikorita, right? Yeah, I couldn't really fix this one. In the manga, Silver stole his Totodile from Professor Elm as Gold was getting Expo. Gold ended up defeating him, but Silver stuck with Totodile, eventually evolving him into Croconaw and then Feraligatr. I have to be honest, Feraligatr is such an underrated design. I know looking back, he's just a basic blue alligator, but he's a basic blue alligator that was done right. As a huge fan of the Spinosaurus from Jurassic Park, Feraligatr just hits it right for me, especially when you see him in some action shots from the manga. Super excited to use this beast. I name him Gary after the gharial alligators with their silly little snouts and add him to the team. After taking Gold out, I head back to the lab, and the police officer asks me if I saw the person who stole Professor Elm's Pokemon. Bro is on the right track too. Whoever did it will come back to the site. Luckily, Lyra sticks up for us, saying that there was a red-haired boy looking into the building. Yeah, a red-haired boy. Not me. Nuh-uh. Nope. Of course, I play along and give him Gold's information instead, so the cops can work on tracking him down instead of me. With the police officer sent and our starter secured, it's time to get our second starter of the run, Sneasel. That's right, I moved Sneasel's encounter up as our second encounter to match more with the manga canon. In the manga, Sneasel was basically Silver's first Pokemon. He was given to Silver by his father Giovanni, and the two of them grew up together. Silver used him many times throughout their adventures, including stealing the Totodile from Professor Elm. Eventually, Sneasel evolves into Weavile after Green gives him a Razor Claw, which we will do as well. I name him Loki and add him to the team. Back in our adventures, we head through the routes and arrive at Violet City. Before we can take on Falkner, we first have to clear through Sprout Tower and take out Elder Lee. On our way up, we bump into Gold as the Elder scolds him for not loving his Pokemon. Yeah, that's embarrassing. He teleports out of here as we take on the Elder. With 2 Pokemon on our team, we easily take him out without breaking a sweat. Definitely helps that Loki is level 11. After leveling up a bit more, it's time to take on Falkner. Falkner sends out Pidgey, and I send out Gary. Unfortunately for his Pidgey, a few bites are enough to take the bird out. That gives us enough XP to level up to level 14, as Falkner sends out his ace Pidgeotto. We trade blows for a while, but I switch into Loki to give him some time to shine. A few screeches and quick attacks later, and Pidgeotto goes down, winning us our first gym badge. As soon as we leave the gym, Professor Elm calls us to give us a Pokemon egg. Normally, this egg hatches into Togepo the Togepi, but after running around for a little bit, the egg hatches into a Larvitar. That's right, I moved Larvitar up in the encounter list so we don't have to wait all the way until the Safari Zone to get him. I name him Thamel and add him to the team. In the manga, Silver obtained Tyranitar when he was still a Pupitar. His first appearance in the manga was actually as a fully evolved Tyranitar against Gold's unevolved team of Misfits. He was easily tearing through Gold's entire team, taking out Abo, Sunbo, Exbo, Sudobo, and Polybo, until he was finally taken out by the all-powerful Togepo and his piercing Double Edge. Later on in their adventure, Silver recognized that he couldn't fully control Tyranitar and gave him back to Lance. By the way, if you guys want to see my playthrough of Heart Gold using Gold's team, I've included a playlist of all my playthroughs at the end of the video. Feel free to check it out. Back in our adventures, we continue through the routes and arrive at Violet City. Team Rocket's up to some trouble in Slowpoke Well, so Kurt and I decide to run after them to save the poor Slowpoke. Shout out to Kurt, by the way, bro just threw himself down a well to save some Slowpoke. I'll just, take the ladder like a normal person. Yo, I think I saw Kurt in the Fire Red Leaf Green remakes. Isn't this him blocking our path? After defeating Team Rocket, I leveled up the team to get ready to challenge Bugsy. With the fully unevolved team, his Scyther can be a little scary, but I feel confident in our tight matchup as I send out Thamel. Scyther goes for a Focus Energy, but that's no match for a Stab Rock Slide. Yeah, I was pretty shocked too that Larvitar learns Rock Slide at level 14. With the biggest obstacle out of the way, Gary is free to take out his follow-up Metapod, and Loki takes out his Kakuna as well, winning us our second gym badge. After the battle, Gary evolves into Croconaw, just in time for us to take on Gold. Yeah, his sprite's got problems as he spins over to us, but Loki easily deals with his Ghastly and Zubat. Gold sends out Bayleaf next, who should be a Quilava. Bayleaf is actually a bigger problem for us, as none of our Pokemon can deal with him well. I start by setting up a Screech with Loki to lower his defense in case he sets up a Reflect, but Bayleaf goes for a Poison Powder instead. On the next turn, we fire off a powerful Feint Attack as Bayleaf now sets up a Reflect. At this point, it's too late though, as we outspeed and take the Bayleaf out with another Feint Attack, winning us the battle. After taking out Gold, we make our way through Ilex Forest and arrive at Goldenrod City. Here, we can head to the Radio Tower to take part in a quiz for a radio card. Kurt, the Pokeball creator, uses apricots as ingredients? I'm not sure about that, but I know he loves using his back to break his fall when he jumps down Slowpoke wells. Aside from completing the quiz, we can also impress the babes with our trivia knowledge, as Whitney decides she wants to head back to her gym to take our challenge. I work on leveling up the team to our level cap and get ready to challenge her. Whitney leads with Clefairy, and I lead with Thamel. We start the battle with a Rock Slide, and Clefairy wastes a turn using Mimic to learn our Rock Slide. On the next turn, a second Rock Slide connects, taking her out. Whitney sends out Miltank next, who immediately sways us with an Attract. Luckily, Thamel holds strong and connects with the Rock Slide, but it doesn't do as much as I would have liked. We get off a Screech as Miltank goes for Flinch strats, and after another Screech, I switch into Gary as Miltank hits us with a Stomp. With the defense drop, a Bite does a lot of damage, but Miltank infatuates us again, immobilizing us for this turn. I switch back into Thamel as Miltank lands a critical hit Stomp, dealing a huge amount of damage. I'm forced to stay in and pray for Miltank not to crit, which pays off as we live with 7 HP. We return to Screech, further lowering Miltank's defense to set up for Loki coming in. As we switch in, Miltank uses Stomp, which is a 3-hit KO. Luckily, with all the defense drops, we're able to outspeed and take her out with a Feint Attack, winning us the battle and our third gym badge. Unfortunately, we can't get Whitney's number since we made her cry. It ain't easy out here in the Pokemon world. One minute you're charming the ladies with trivia, and the next minute they're calling you a meanie just for beating them in a Pokemon battle. To clear our heads, we take a walk through National Park, where we can also take a nice team photo with Cameron the photographer. This space should be for Whitney. I'm sure she would love a nice romantic walk in the park. But hey, it's not time to get hung up on girls. We've got to clear through Sudobu blocking the path and make our way to Ecruteak City. Before we take on Morty, I want to get one more encounter. On Route 38, I catch a 1% encounter, a Snubbull named Snug. It took a long time to find him though, and in that time, I learned how diverse this route is. I always knew this route as the place to catch Magnemite, but there's also a 10% for a Farfetch'd, 4% for a Tauros, and a 5% for a Miltank. If I hadn't hunted for this 1% Snubbull, I never would have known. In the manga, Silver traded his Horsey for Green Snubbull after they escaped the Masked Man. They eventually traded back, and Snubbull later evolved into a Granbull. To make the gameplay a little more diverse, I decided to trade with Green to use a Snubbull on our team for this short section. We'll eventually trade back, but for now, we can bring Snug with us to take on Morty. In order to challenge him though, we first have to clear through Burn Tower, where we get challenged by Gold again. His animations are still a little yeah. But with the Swords Dance TM from the Goldenrod Game Corner, Loki can easily take out his Ghastly and Bayleaf as Gary takes care of his Zubat and Magnemite. Poor guy, look at him spin away after we defeat him. Anyway, we head downstairs and set the 3 legendary beasts loose onto Johto. By the way, do you guys think that Entei, Raikou, and Suicune are supposed to be Ho-Oh's reincarnations of Flareon, Jolteon, and Vaporeon? I'm 50-50 on this one, because there's a lot of hints that point in that direction, like connections with the Kimono Girls and their evolutions, but at the same time, there's nothing concrete. Also, in episode 6 of Pokemon Generations, they show a flashback of the 3 Pokemon that got trapped in the Burn Tower, and they look nothing like any known evolution. So, I don't know. I'll wait for MatPat to put out his theory. Oh, also, while clearing through the trainers, Snug evolved into Granbull. With the legendary beasts freed and the team leveled up, it's time to take on Morty. He leads with Ghastly and I send out Loki. We immediately outspeed and take out his lead with a Feint Attack, which causes Morty to panic and send out his Ace Gengar. His Gengar, however, tanks a Feint Attack and lives on 1 HP. He then promptly puts us to sleep with hypnosis, so I switch into Gary to finish him off. Unfortunately, Shadow Ball does way too much damage, so I'm forced to switch into Snug. Okay, I was being kind of stupid here because I went for a Charm to go for the cheese strats. For those of you who don't know, if you have a normal type Pokemon with a status move, Morty's Gengar literally can't touch you. All you can do is spam Sucker Punch or put you to sleep with hypnosis. So I went for a Charm predicting a Sucker Punch, wasting the turn as Gengar misses a hypnosis. On the next turn, I misclick and use Headbutt as Gengar uses Sucker Punch, which even though Gengar is immune to Headbutt, still lets Sucker Punch land. Then on the next turn, seeing how little damage Sucker Punch did, I finally go for a Bite, but Gengar outspeeds and puts us to sleep with another hypnosis. Eventually, we wake up and take him out with a Bite, but that took a lot longer than we needed. Morty's follow-up Haunters were also easily taken out by Thamel, getting us the victory. That's badge number 4. With Morty defeated, that opens up a lot of Johto. Oh, also at this point, our back sprite started working. I spent a lot of time in Photoshop to make it look good, so I wanted to show it off. Anyway, I immediately head past Mahogany Town to the Lake of Rage where we can catch our next team member, Levi the Red Gyarados. In the manga, Silver's Gyarados was the leader of a group of wild Magikarp. These Magikarp were forced to evolve into Gyarados when Team Rocket messed with the radio tower, sending out radio waves that would force them to evolve. Gold dealt with the rampaging Gyarados from the ground, while Silver flew up on his Murkrow to isolate the source. He found the signal was coming from a red Gyarados, so the two of them defeated and caught him, causing the rest of the Gyarados to calm down and return home safely. With Levi added to the team, I head south past Olivine and arrive at Signwood City. Before we can challenge Chuck, I level up the team to the level cap. In that time, Gary evolves into Feraligatr and Thamel evolves into Pupitar. With everyone ready, it's time to take on Chuck. Chuck leads with Primeape and I lead with Gary. Primeape outspeeds and starts setting up Double Team, which lets us get off a powerful Surf. On the next turn, however, Chuck sees this coming and switches into his Poliwrath to absorb the attack. I switch into Snug, getting off an Intimidate to lower his attack, as Poliwrath only puts us to sleep with Hypnosis. Okay, a Focus Punch right there would have been pretty scary. I totally forgot that Granbull is still a normal type in these games. Now that we're asleep, I switch into Levi as Poliwrath now goes for a Focus Punch. But with a double Intimidate and a Flying type resist, we can easily tank it. At this point, we wall him pretty easily with our typing, which lets us weaken him with a few Dragon Rages. But Poliwrath puts us asleep, so I switch into Snug to get off another Intimidate as we tank a Body Slam. On the next turn, we stay asleep as Poliwrath actually lands a Focus Punch, dealing a lot of damage. On the next turn, I immediately switch back into Levi for another Intimidate as Poliwrath barely does any damage with Focus Punch. I guess at this point, Chuck's AI realized that Surf was starting to do more damage than a -4 Body Slam, so I stay in to use Dragon Rage. But Levi stays asleep for 3 more turns, forcing me to switch into Gary as Poliwrath spams Surf and Body Slam. At this point, Chuck's AI sees that the strongest move he has against us is Focus Punch, so we stay in and continuously interrupt his focus with Cut. After a Hyper Potion, Poliwrath finally goes down, and Chuck sends out his Primeape again, who promptly falls to a Surf. That was kind of a pain to go through, but I sure am glad it's done. That's badge number 5. With Chuck defeated, it's time to head back to Mahogany Town and take out Pryce. His level cap is 1 level below Jasmine's, but in order to challenge him, we must first clear through Rocket headquarters. I guess no one recognizes us as Giovanni's son, because Lance teams up with us to take out Ariana. Look at us, 3 redheads, and a random Rocket grunt. At our current level difference, however, yeah, it's not much of a fight. After taking out the Electrode and clearing out the rest of Rocket headquarters, I realize we can actually get another encounter. In the Safari Zone, I catch our next team member, Rigatoni the Murkrow. In the manga, Silver would fly around on Murkrow to get to hard to reach areas. The first time we see him in the manga was when he was flying Silver over the ruins of Ekruti. Later on, Silver evolved him into Honchkrow, which we will be doing as well. Now, with everyone leveled up, it's time to take on Pryce. Pryce leads with Seal, and I send out Gary. We outspeed and deal a decent chunk with Crunch as Seal only sets up a Hail. And since Seal isn't an Ice type yet, the Hail chip brings him down to the yellow, which lets Gary outspeed and take him out with another Crunch. Pryce sends out Piloswine next, who almost gets taken out by a Surf, but he just barely hangs on as he retaliates with a Mud Bomb. This drops our accuracy, and on the next turn, Gary misses a Surf as Piloswine hits us with another Mud Bomb. On the next turn, we're finally able to connect with the Surf, taking him out. Pryce sends out his last Pokemon, his Dugong. With our HP lowered, I switch into Snug as Dugong uses Aurora Beam. On the next turn, Dugong crits us with another Aurora Beam, bringing us to the yellow, but we crit back with a Headbutt, bringing Dugong to a sliver of HP. Pryce will always heal here, which gives us the opportunity to switch into Loki to set up a swords dance. With our attack doubled, 2 feint attacks are enough to take out the dugong, winning us our 6th gym badge. With the Glacier badge acquired, we can now use Surf to reach Whirl Islands to get our next encounter, Queen the Horsey. In the manga, Silver traded Horsey to Green in exchange for her Snubbull. They later traded back, and Silver went on to evolve her into a Seadra and then into Kingdra, which we'll be doing too. And now that we've got our Horsey, it's time to trade Snug back to Green to make room on our party for Queen. Before we can take on Jasmine, we first clear through the lighthouse to bring the secret potion to Amphi. In that time, Queen evolved into Seadra. With the team leveled up and Amphi feeling better, it's time to challenge Jasmine. Jasmine leads with Magnemite and I lead with Thamel. We start the battle with a dig, dodging the Magnemite Supersonic and one-shotting him on the next turn. Jasmine gets scared and immediately sends out her ace Steelix, so I switch into Queen for her debut battle as Steelix wastes a turn setting up Sandstorm. But with Steelix's horrible special defense, even with the Sandstorm boost, we can easily one-shot her with a Surf. Jasmine sends out her final Magnemite, so I switch back into Thamel to finish the battle how we started it, taking her out with another dig. That's badge number 7. At this point, it's time for more story as we return to Goldenrod City to deal with Team Rocket. We head down to the basement to pick up our Team Rocket disguise and we look awfully familiar, huh? Where'd our iconic red hair go? We head back upstairs to retake the radio tower, but get stopped by Gold as he spins in and ruins our disguise. With our level difference, we easily take out the Team Rocket grunt, which leaves Gold so confused that he spins out of here. The rest of Radio Tower is pretty simple too, all thanks to our level difference. With the tower cleared, we can take the battle to their underground hideout and clear through all the trainers. Gold spins in to battle us again, but we easily defeat him, grab the keycard, and head up to the observation deck of the radio tower. Archer's up here sending a signal to Giovanni, but I don't know if he knows this, but we've got the nepotism blood flowing through us, with Giovanni being our father and all. We easily take out his Houndour and Houndoom with Gari, and finish the battle with Thamel. At this point, Team Rocket is officially disbanded, and we can make our way towards Blackthorn City. But also, enough in-game time has passed for Baoba, the Safari Zone Warden, to let us unlock new environments for more encounters. We fly back to the Safari Zone, where we can catch a Rhyhorn named Lionel. If you saw my Blue video, you might remember that I decided to use Scyther as my Safari Zone encounter instead of Rhydon. Well, in the manga, Blue gave his Rhydon to Silver to replace his Ursaring. Since he was traded with a Protector, he immediately evolved into a Rhyperior. We can't get a Protector until after we beat all the Kanto gym leaders, so let's see if we still want to use him on our team then. Now that we can access Blackthorn City, we make our way through the routes for our final encounter, Tekken the Teddiursa. In the manga, Silver and Gold were both trying to catch a Mother Ursaring and her Teddiursa. They started fighting with each other and ended up getting cornered at the edge of a cliff. Silver's Heavy Ball was lost in the scuffle, and Gold only had his weaker Friend Ball. Using one of his signature billiard trick shots, Gold ricocheted a Friend Ball around to knock Silver's Heavy Ball back to him, and our two heroes used their Pokeballs to catch the Ursaring and the Teddiursa, saving the day. Back in our adventures, I level up the team to get ready to challenge Clair. In that time, Tekken evolves into Ursaring, and I also head back to the Pokeathlon Dome to pick up a dropped, totally legit Duskstone. With this, we can evolve Rigatoni into Honchkrow so he can finally see some action in the main battles. With the team maxed out, it's time to take on the final gym leader and her team of dragon types. Clair leads with Gyarados, and I send out Levi for the mirror matchup. Prior to the battle, I taught Levi Thunderbolt, and it's a clean 2-shot. Clair's Gyarados can only use Dragon Rage, which gets us a pretty simple knockout. Clair sends out Dragonair next, who gets outsped and flinched by an Ice Fang. On the next turn, another Ice Fang takes her out, and Clair sends in another Dragonair.
Bruh. How many times do we have to teach you this lesson, old man?
This Dragonair manages to paralyze us, however, and after a Dragon Pulse, we're forced to switch out into Gari. Another Ice Fang later, and Dragonair goes down. Last up is Clair's ace, her Kingdra. We stay in and use another Ice Fang, which gets the flinch on the first turn. On the next turn, we use another Ice Fang, but Kingdra dodges the flinch and gets off a smokescreen, lowering our accuracy. On the following turn, we stay in and use Crunch while Kingdra goes for another smokescreen. A few crunches later, and Kingdra finally goes down. We totally risked losing Gari to a critical hit Hyper Beam, but as usual, we leave unpunished as we head to the Dragon's Den to pick up our 8th and final gym badge. With all badges obtained, it's finally time to head over to the Elite Four. Unfortunately, I lost the footage when I first set foot into Kanto because, okay. I use OBS to record, and the start streaming and start recording buttons are right on top of each other. Usually I'm pretty good about this, but this time I accidentally pressed start streaming and lost all that footage. In that time, I cleared through Victory Road and arrived at the Pokemon League. I also picked up the Dragon Scale to evolve Queen into Kingdra, and I also, obtained a Razor Claw to evolve Loki into Weavile. With everything ready, we head into the Pokemon League to take on the Elite Four. First up is Will. He leads with Xatu, and I lead with Loki. I use the first turn to set up a Swords Dance, while Xatu uses Confuse Ray, which could be scary. Fortunately, I came prepared with the Persim Berry, letting Loki shake off the confusion and take out the Xatu with the Night Slash on the following turn. Then, one by one, each member of Will's team gets outsped and taken out by a stab, super effective Night Slash. That's 1 down, 3 to go. Next up is Koga. He leads with Ariados, and I lead with Levi to start the battle with an Intimidate. We start setting up Dragon Dances as his Ariados just wastes the first turn going for a Spider Web, then dealing minimal damage with a Poison Jab on the next turn. One Aqua Tail later, and Ariados goes down. Koga sends out Fortress next, who tries to stall a turn with Protect, but Levi easily takes him out on the following turn. Next is Muck, who also goes down to a single Aqua Tail. Crobat and Venomoth too. What can I say? With the +2 attack and a Mystic Water, we're pretty much unstoppable. That's 2 down, 2 to go. Third is Bruno. He leads with Hitmontop, and I lead with Levi to start the battle with another Intimidate. We start setting up Dragon Dances as Hitmontop tries to use Counter. Okay, we really need to be careful and make sure that we can one-shot him before he returns our attack with Counter. On the next few turns, we continue to use Dragon Dance as Hitmontop keeps desperately trying to use Counter. Finally, after maxing out our Dragon Dances, we can take out the Hitmontop with the Strength. If he had a Focus Sash and continued using Counter, he probably could have taken out our Levi. But luckily, the AI isn't good at building sets. Now that we're +6 attack and +6 speed, I had some fun and took out the rest of Bruno's team with Strength. His Onix took 2 hits, which let him set up a Sandstorm, but everyone got outsped and went down easily, winning us a pretty simple third battle. Last up is Karen. She leads with Umbreon, and I lead with Gary. Umbreon can be a tanky nightmare, but we outspeed and land a critical hit Waterfall, taking him out. Karen sends out Vileplume next, so we stay in and deal a huge chunk of damage with Ice Fang. Vileplume tanks it though, and retaliates with a Stun Spore. Now that we're paralyzed, Vileplume outspeeds and does a lot of damage with the Petal Blizzard, but we tank it and return with an Ice Fang, taking her out. Karen sends out Gengar next, so I immediately switch into Rigatoni to tank Shadow Ball. Gengar decides to waste a turn going for a Spite instead, so on the next turn, we outspeed and fly up in the air as Gengar misses a Focus Blast. One fly barely takes Gengar out, which gives her the opportunity to retaliate with another Spite. There goes 4 PP, but after Karen heals, we didn't even need Fly as Rigatoni one-shots Gengar with a Night Slash. Karen sends out her final Pokemon, her Houndoom. We outspeed and take to the skies with Fly, but Houndoom uses this opportunity to set up a nasty plot. On the next turn, we connect with Fly, bringing Houndoom in the red as she connects with a boosted Flamethrower, nearly taking out our Rigatoni. I immediately switch into Queen to quad resist the Flamethrower, then take her out with a Choice Specs boosted Surf. Karen sends out Murkrow last, so we continue to use our Choice Specs boosted Surf, one-shotting the poor bird and winning us the final Elite Four battle. Now, it's finally time to take on the Dragon Master himself. Lance has been by our side throughout our journey, but I'm starting to feel like he's getting suspicious that we kind of look like that infamous mob boss Giovanni. Either way, he accepts our challenge, sending out Gyarados as we send out Rigatoni. Gyarados immediately cuts our attack with Intimidate, so we fish for a crit with Night Slash. We're out of luck, and Gyarados does way too much damage with an Ice Fang, so we're forced to switch into Gary to resist his attacks. A few crunches later, and Gyarados is in the yellow, but we're pretty low HP too. I switch into Queen to tank the Waterfall, then take him out with a Choice Specs boosted Dragon Pulse. Lance sends out Dragonite next, but we outspeed and one-shot him with a Dragon Pulse. His follow-up Dragonite comes out next, who meets the same fate. His third Dragonite is 1 level higher, so I was a little nervous. But with the stab and the Choice Specs, he gets one shot as well. Lance sends out Charizard next, so I switch into Levi to take him out with an Aqua Tail. Lance's final Pokemon is his Aerodactyl, and to avoid getting outsped and one-shot with a Thunderfang, I switch into Tekken so he can have some time to shine. I feel bad for dragging him along and never using him for any of the major battles, so he can have a chance to prove himself. Aerodactyl deals a huge chunk of damage with Rock Slide, and Tekken dodges the flinch, retaliating with an Avalanche and taking Aerodactyl out, winning us the battle. And with that, the Johto League is defeated and Kanto opens up. There's not much to report on for Kanto. Since I didn't use Tekken as much, I cleared through basically all of Kanto with him behind me. We got to see Blue again, and it was nice to see all the familiar faces on his team. I did a playthrough with his team previously, so it was nice to see Eggy, Amber, Dazel, and Kite one more time. He also took his Rhydon back and caught himself a Gyarados, which was cool to see. Finally, with all of Kanto cleared through, I level up the team and climb Mount Silver to challenge Red. His team can be pretty tough, but with all the heavy hitters on our team, I'm fairly confident in our chances of winning. Without saying a word, Red lowers his head and sends out Pikachu, as we send out Loki. We immediately outspeed and one-shot him with the Night Slash. Charizard comes out next, and fearing a fire-type attack, I switch into Queen for the quad resist. Charizard goes for a Flare Blitz, dealing almost no damage. On the following turn, we're able to take him out with a Choice Specs boosted Surf. Red sends out Venusaur next, and since we're locked into Surf, I switch into Rigatoni to tank the Grass-type attack. Venusaur ends up going for a Sludge Bomb, healing about half after the hail. On the next turn, we fly up and dodge another Sludge Bomb before taking him out with a Fly. This brings out Red's Lapras, and fearing a 100% accurate Blizzard, I switch into Tekken to tank the attack. Since Tekken has the Guts ability, I pre-burned him on a Wild Magmar to get the Guts plus Facade boost, one-shotting the Lapras. We're holding leftovers from the Wild Snorlax to offset the burn, but Red sends out Blastoise next, so I'm forced to switch into Gary on the incoming Blizzard. We go for a Crunch, which luckily gets a defense drop, as Blastoise lands a Focus Blast, taking out a large chunk of our HP. On the next turn, we go for another Crunch, bringing him in the red, but Blastoise lands another Focus Punch, bringing us to the red. I know Red will heal at this range, so we stay in and use another Crunch before switching out to Levy to resist the Focus Blast. We go for a tried and true Dragon Dance setup, but Blastoise's Blizzard does too much damage. On the next turn, we can outspeed and take out Blastoise with his strength. Red sends out his final Pokemon, his Snorlax. With the +1 attack and the Mystic Water, I'm confident that Aqua Tail can take him out. After all, it hasn't failed us in the past, right? I stay in, and Snorlax lives with a tiny sliver of health. That's gotta be 1 HP, right? Straight up invisible Focus Sash. Snorlax then retaliates with a Crunch, but Levy tanks it. Red gets a defense drop, but it's too late at this point, as the Hail takes Snorlax out, winning us the battle. And with that, our time as Silver in the Johto League comes to an end. Overall, this was a really fun challenge for me, getting to use some Pokemon that I've never used before like Ursaring or Kingdra. I'm glad I got to incorporate some of Silver's traded team members as well, and getting Larvitar from the Togepi egg was a fun twist. For my next video, I think I'd like to try another round of Kanto using Yellow's Horrible team or Green's Bizarre team. In my personal life, every night before I go to sleep, I always play a little Radical Red on my phone, so I've been itching to return to Kanto with one of their oddball teams. Be sure to be on the lookout for that one. And hey, if you've made it this far, please consider dropping a like and subscribing. I know I had a little gap between my last video, so I really appreciate you guys for being here. In that time, I graduated from my university and I got a full-time job. My schedule is more open now, so I'll have lots of time for making videos for you guys. Some of you might not have seen my last video since the YouTube algorithm didn't seem to like it too much, so I've included it at the end of this video. I was finishing my last semester at school, so I didn't have the time to set up the sprites for Silver. I decided to do a randomizer Nuzlocke of a Mega Ruby, and I'm pretty proud of that video. And hey, if you're not interested, no worries. I know many of you are here for the manga videos, and I plan to continue with them. I'm super excited for where this channel will take me, and I don't plan on stopping anytime soon. Also, tell me what you guys would like to see for future videos, and I'll be sure to read each comment. I appreciate you guys for being here. Until next time, this has been Magnus. I'll catch you guys later.